Let's go.
Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. I'm your host, David Horsager. Join me as I sit down with influential leaders from around the world to discuss why leaders and organizations fail, top tactics for high performance, and how you can become an even more trusted leader. Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. It's David Horsager back with you, and I have a dear friend of mine, the NBA star, the Speaker Hall of Famer, the author, the board member, and just a dear friend. We're on Mastermind Group 20 years ago maybe together, but his name is Walter Bond, and probably I saw him before he saw me, because I remember, Walter, when you played for the great University of Minnesota and our basketball team. I was still in high school basketball team, and we came to watch you guys go to the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8, and we're sitting up in the barn wishing we were you guys, and I watched you those years, so that was a fun treat. But welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Dave. That was a long time ago. A lot of pounds ago, but, at my core, I'm an athlete, and that's what kind of taught me about life. It taught me about success principles, and I just thank God that I chose the University of Minnesota. It was a great experience, and it really set the platform for us to launch our training and development company and raise my kids in Minnesota. And so, thanks for having me.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you. So it's great to be here. And when we were starting out, we talked about this a little bit before the show. 20 years ago or whatever it was, we're moving on. I had been director of an organization. You had been, of course, in the NBA, and you've had some other great leadership experiences because of that. But we're starting to speak more, and I still remember some of those days as we're starting out. But now you've built quite a company into this great training and development company. Maybe even start with, what are some of the setbacks, what are some of the challenges? How have you grown what you've grown today? I mean, you kind of had to start twice, at least, in leadership, business, and life.
Well, Dave, sometimes you have to reinvent, and I want to encourage any leader listening today, it's okay, because sometimes you have to shift. And when my basketball career was over as an athlete, it's going to end one day. You just don't know when. And so when you play ball at a young age, like 7, 8, 9, with the dream of playing in the NBA, and then you make it, right? And then you play until you're 31 years old. Literally, Dave, when I left the NBA, I knew nothing about business. All I understood was basketball. And so I had a wife and 3 kids, and I never made the big money. And so I looked at my checking account. We had about a year to figure it out, and we stumbled into the speaking business. And I've never had a real job. I've never been hired by a company. So my wife and I literally figured it out from scratch. So everything we do is real, it's organic, it is free of any corporate muck or any corporate politics. And for a long time, I thought that was a disadvantage, because I would only speak to kids when I first started speaking. I would go to high schools and middle schools, because at the time I didn't feel equipped or worthy of speaking to a company, because I had never had a real job. But parents would hear me speak to the basketball team and high school kids, and the parents built my confidence. And they would come to me, Dave, and say, hey, our company needs to hear this. Oh boy, we're dealing with this inside of our association. And I would say, like, really? And before I knew it, we left the youth market and we got into corporate America, and wow, the rest is history, as they say. But, I really appreciate not having this huge corporate background and now sitting on corporate boards. So my whole mentality is simplistic and simple, because most companies overthink everything.
I can't agree more.
Basketball, you got to master fundamentals. The same thing is true for business.
Well, I say it all the time. I love and I've delved into research because I don't want it to be just some kind of cheesy motivational idea. But what we've learned is, if you don't simplify it, no one will use it. It's got to be so simple in the midst of our crazy, hectic world as leaders. I'll use it tomorrow. So for me, not from basketball so much as I think we were like 1-19 my senior year of high school, even though I was the captain. Obviously, that wasn't something to be proud of right then. But I think for me, it was growing up on the farm. It was like it's simple, clear truths that you got to cultivate it, you got to weed it, you got to do this, you got to do that, and a lot of that overlaps with business. But you've been on boards and all this. But let's go back to basketball, because a lot of what you learned in teams there, you've brought to great high-performing companies, and you've spoken, just so people know, and many do know you, but they know you've spoken to some of the biggest companies at some of the biggest events. We got inducted into the Speaker Hall of Fame about the same time. You were ahead of me. You're out there, you're working, and you're actually leading, and you're asked for leadership advice and advising many of the greats, even, boards. So how do you relate what you learned in basketball or being a teammate to what you're doing now and how you're equipping boards to perform at their best, or companies?
Yeah, again, it all started with sports, and I'll go before that. Honestly, my father was my high school principal, and honestly, that's really when I began to understand leadership. And throughout my sports career, I had some amazing coaches, and I had a few bad ones. And each opportunity, I learned. And in fact, my first team I played on was called the Eagles. And we did not win one game the whole entire season. And I remember my coach smelled funny. And when you're 7, 8 years old, I didn't know what that meant. He just had this funny smell. Long story short, my first baseball coach was an alcoholic. And he would come to practice drunk every day, set no expectations. We didn't practice hard. We didn't improve. And we were just awful. The good news is that team stayed together. And we got a new coach, same player, new coach. His name was Mike Flagg. And Mike Flagg built our confidence. He set expectations. And by the time we were 12 years old, our team was dominant. And so I saw that transformation. We went from the Bad News Bears with a coach, a leader who was an alcoholic, and bless his heart, he had a problem, but he did not have influence over our team. The same guys, same players, different coach, different leader transformed us into a dominant team. And so that's how I began understanding life before I was even 12 years old. And I ended up flunking out of my first high school. I don't even know if you know that. I went to the top academic school in Chicago, and these were the smartest kids in Chicago. And I got my lunch handed to me because I didn't think I was as smart as they were. I always was competitive athletically. I always did great socially. But when I got to this high school, I was basically defeated the day school started, because all these kids were smart and I never even competed in the classroom. So I transferred to my dad's high school in the hood, in one of the lowest income areas of Chicago. And I saw my dad lead. I saw him operate. I saw him build confidence. I saw him set expectations. And before I knew it, I began to not only have an amazing father, my high school principal was amazing as well. And then I go to college and played for a great coach like Clem Haskins. Coach Haskins was a demander. I mean, he drove you. He made you get better. And every year, his player development was off the chain. That man produced more NBA players than probably any Gopher coach in history. And he wasn't winning any recruiting battles. He would get his hands on a raw talent and he would develop it. And so that's my message for any leader. It's your job to develop your people. When I left sports and got into business, David, I was disappointed in the player development inside of companies. You just hire and fire people? No, you hired the person, you onboarded them, now develop them. And so that's what we're really bringing to our corporate clients. And this is my final comment on that little tangent I just gave you, that smart companies are really training and development organizations at their core. And if any leader can get that it's my job to change the culture, it's my job to develop people, training and development is a no-brainer. And that's what we're bringing to our clients.
I love it. So, one thing you talk about, and you got the new book called Swim, and you talk about this responsibility of leaders to really be mentors, not just run through people, but develop them. Tell me, how do you do it? How does we got leaders on today from Fortune 500s to small companies, but they're developing people, and they're about ready to fire them because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and yet could they develop? How would they go about that? How would you go about that?
No, here's the truth. We follow sports and everyone focuses on LeBron and Kobe and Tom Brady. It's so easy for people to focus on the superstars. Well, there's only a handful of them. Even in the average high school, you got some A students, obviously. You got some brilliant kids. You got some kids causing problems. And we always talk about the 80-20 rule, right? Where 20% of people do, 80% of the work. Or, even in financial services, for example, they always do these events and they take their high performers to these incentive trips. And it's the same people who qualify every year. And I always ask these business leaders, well, what are you doing with your C students? Why do I ask that question, Dave? I flunked out of my first high school. Here I am as a thought leader, sitting on corporate boards, writing best-selling books, and I flunked out of my first high school. But let me tell you what my high school principal did at my second high school. He built my confidence and he set expectation. He built my confidence and he set expectation. At the University of Minnesota, I was not highly recruited, right? But I sat down with my coach every year and I would ask Coach Haskins, what do I need to do to play in the NBA? And he would tell me, right? You got to lose 15 pounds. You got to work on your left hand. Come on, let's get in the gym and rebuild your jump shot, right? Let's go and practice. Let's work hard, son. Get in better shape. And 4 years later, I'm in the NBA. Of course, he's one of my favorite leaders. Of course, I talk about him all the time, right? So I'll challenge any leader. Are your people talking about you? If I sat down with all of your subordinates and asked them, who is your favorite leader and why? Will they even mention your name, right? And so if you go back in school, we all had that favorite teacher. Why? Because that favorite teacher had impact. They either built our confidence or they supported us or they worked with us one-on-one. I've worked with so many people that the smart companies and smart leaders get this. Your average employee is who you need to focus on. Stop focusing on your top producers in these incentive trips. Your C student, your average performer is 60% of your organization. That's why training and development is so important. Your superstars, they showed up as superstars. Your leadership experience is going to be based on what did you do with your C student. My father knows he had impact. Coach Haskins knows what he did with me as an average recruit, average ball player. That's what leaders should be focused on.
So I've got an average recruiter, average players. I mean, how do you instill? I mean, this could be from people's kids to people's employees, right? How do I build confidence? How did people build confidence in you? How does that happen?
Well, here's what I challenge my audience with. And I love the fact that now, Dave, we're in these big venues, these big ballrooms with these big leaders. And I don't back down. I challenge them. And I basically ask the question I want to ask right now. And any leader, I want to ask you the same question right now. Are you a coach or are you a fruit inspector? Are you a coach or are you a fruit inspector? You know what it is to inspect fruit. You go to the grocery store and you grab apples and you look at them and say, this apple's good, that's apple's bad. This orange looks good, this orange looks bad. This banana looks good, this banana looks bad. And you're just choosing, right? But a coach, they develop their people. And so fruit inspectors have a high turnover. Okay, fruit inspectors don't build confidence. Fruit inspectors don't build the right culture. They're just trying to get star players to hopefully make them look good. A real coach will take a raw material and say, you know what? This person has potential, but it's my job to help them reach their potential. And so what we do with our leadership trainings and all of our leadership programs, and that's why I wrote the book Swim. The star of the book Swim is a guy named Drew, and he on purpose went and recruited misfits. But he plugged them into their training and development program, and he built an amazing HVAC company with broken people. We have people out here who obviously are imperfect, who are flawed, who have weaknesses. And that's where great coaches come in. And if you can become a great coach as a leader, which simply means I get that you have numbers you have to hit. You have the responsibilities that you have to keep the stock price high. But a big part of your job is player development. What are you doing with your human capital? And if we can teach, David, leaders how important it is. You talk about a trusted leader. You help me develop, man, I'm going to trust you. And not only that, I'm going to run through a wall for you. So any smart leader will become a coach instead of being a fruit inspector. And when you become a coach, the people that you lead are going to naturally trust you because you help them develop.
I love it. A lot of what you talked about, at least over the years since we were in a mastermind, over a decade ago together, is you talk about team and you talk about discipline and accountability. And I still remember, Karl Malone was an example to you. Tell us about that.
Karl Malone and John Stockton. And I got a Jerry Sloan story that I love to tell. Karl Malone, arguably the greatest power forward of all time. This guy lifted weights every single day, and he was very disciplined with his body. I mean, he was 6'9", 256 pounds. And we would go out and eat, and I would think he was a jerk and very difficult in restaurants. He would tell the waiter, I want a grilled chicken Caesar salad, but when you grill my chicken breast, don't put any char marks on my chicken breast. And I would go behind his back, apologize. I'm thinking he's being difficult or just arrogant. Me, I ate whatever they brought me. French fries, I didn't order them, but they looked good. Milkshake, I said nothing back. And long story short, he had one of the best bodies of all time. And my coaches always told me I needed to lose weight. Karl Malone was incredibly disciplined. And I'm telling you, he lifted weights every single day. John Stockton, my God. He went to a chiropractor 4 times a day. There's a chiropractor in Utah that he made famous. Stockton played until he was 40 years old. And both of these guys were extremely disciplined, extremely focused, loved playing basketball. But just the discipline that I learned from both of these guys was unbelievable. But the kicker was Jerry Sloan. Jerry Sloan just passed away. And I went out to Utah to honor him because he had such an impact on my life. Because he taught me something very valuable. We didn't scrimmage in practice, and I'm trying to make the team. And I'm trying to figure out, Jerry, we're basketball players, but we don't play basketball. All we did were drills, Dave. All we did were drills. So I go to Jerry Sloan, and I said, Jerry, I'm trying to make your team, but since we don't scrimmage in practice, I feel like I can't show you what I can do. I'm stressing out. My NBA career is on life support. I got a wife. I got 3 kids. But this was his answer was, Dave. And it really is one of the pillars of our training and development company. And it really changed my life as it relates to life after basketball. He said, Walter, I already know what you can do. But if you want to make my team, I suggest you listen, follow directions, and execute. If you listen, if you follow directions, and if you execute, you'll be fine. So what he was really saying, Dave, is like, look, I want to see if you can follow the Utah Jazz way. I know you're a good ball player on your own, but if you want to make my team, you got to play the Utah Jazz way. Chick-fil-A has a way. Target has a way. So great leaders, great companies build cultures, but most importantly, they create a way and they find the right players that buy into the way. See, if you don't have a way, all the individuals you hire are going to bring their own value system. And if you don't have a way, their individual value systems are going to take over. That's why we have so much dysfunction. That's why we have so much chaos. And the only way you can really build a great organization is being a great leader who understands how to build a way, how to teach a way, and then to find the right players that fit your way. And that's what greatness is all about.
Hey, it's Ann with the Trust Edge team here. As you know, we are passionate about helping you and your team perform at your best. And that's why David wrote his new book, Trusted Leader. This true-to-life parable follows the story of a CEO who uncovers the root issue threatening his organization's success. And in the back half of the book, David provides a roadmap for even how to solve those root issues. Get Trusted Leader for your team, your organization, or even just for yourself at trustedleaderbook.com.
You know, you've been on several boards. You're now on the Jersey Mike's board as one example. What's it take to create a high trust board or be a high trust board member? I mean, I sit on boards like you do, and I often say the biggest risk of a board is losing trust. And so, what do you see as the commonality where you see great board members or becoming great board or great boards? What's there?
To me, you have a team. And just like a basketball team, and we teach teamwork. I remember we had a teammate in college. You remember him named Richard Coffey. Richard Coffey could rebound. And that was about it. And I remember being younger, I used to be a little critical. Like, man, you can't shoot, you can't dribble. All he could do was rebound. But you know what? As I matured, I was like, this dude leads the Big Ten in rebounding. In fact, he's like the best 6'6" rebounder I've ever seen in my life. And he made the Timberwolves as an undersized power forward because he was such a great rebounder. And so it really taught me that if you're going to have a great board, your board needs to be diverse in thought and skill set and ability. And any board I come on, look, don't give me your spreadsheet. Don't talk to me about the fiduciary responsibility, because that's not my specialty. I want to really impact your human capital. And that's why I'm on Jersey Mike's board, because Peter Cancrow, the founder, understands the kind of impact I can have on people. And he can find anybody to do the CFO and the spreadsheet and all the other responsibilities. But I'm on his board because he wants me to impact his people. And he said many times, Walter, we're in the people business. You're an expert with people, and I need your voice. My people need to hear your voice, not only internally, but externally. This man used me. I did 25 keynotes across the country for all of his managers. Think about that. I mean, these kids are 17, 19, 20, 21 years old. He invested in the managers. Why? Watch this analogy. If someone's in great shape, all you got to do is check their abs, their midsection. Don't tell me you're in shape and you got a flabby stomach. Right. So to me, a great organization that's going to be in shape, you got to get leadership baked all the way down to that middle manager. Now, a lot of companies aren't willing to invest and spend time developing the middle manager. That's why McDonald's is so special. Why they created a hamburger university, and the focus was the middle manager, the abs, the midsection, right? Mm-hmm. And I can say that right now because back in the day, I had a six pack. Now I got a big belly.
It's still there. It's still there. You just got to find it, buddy. I was going to say, back when you played, you were 200 pounds. You could 6'5", 200 pounds. It doesn't show on Wikipedia what you are today.
Right. It's none of your business. But, David, imagine what you're doing with leaders at the executive level. I mean, and I'm sure you do this. We got to bake this thing all the way down to that middle manager, because until you get down to that middle manager, you really have not built a culture. Mm-hmm. And we have a client, I'm not going to say their name. It's a major automotive organization, and they lose middle managers and they don't know why. And I know why, because you're not developing middle managers. Here's the truth that all leaders need to understand. At a subconscious level, this is what people think. If I can reach my potential here, I stay. If I can't reach my potential here, I leave. It happens in sports, it happens in business, it happens in life. It happens in marriage. It happens in every organization. It's embedded in our DNA. Can I reach my potential here? So the challenge for any leader is that you have to be able to convince the day you hire someone that you can reach your potential here. And matter of fact, I'm going to make sure you do, because that is my job for you to reach your potential here. If you can't reach your potential here, that's when you have high turnover. Okay, that's when you have apathy. That's when you have poor alignment. Why? Because they're not convinced I can reach my potential here. And to me, that's what McDonald's and Chick-fil-A and great organizations do. And so one of our biggest messages, Dave, to all of our corporate clients is that smart companies are training and development organizations at their core. Because if you're a training and development organization at your core, those middle managers who have high potential, man, they're going to start waking up, right? They're going to start popping like popcorn. They might walk in, a little disheveled and smelling like weed and a little immature. But if you're a training and development organization, McDonald's just hired a brand new chief diversity officer. And he started with McDonald's when he was 16 years old off the street.
Wow. That's
what training and development can do.
I say this often, I think I was reading, this was last year's data, but the Container Store, that's the CEO, there's, and they're beating everybody in their industry. It doesn't sound like this hot, fun industry, but they're beating everybody. I said, well, how are you doing? And he said, well, basically, we can take every one person and turn them into three. In our industry, we have most people spend 8 hours of training and development on the frontline employees. We spend 200 in the first year. He said, that's why we are where we are at the top of the industry. And you and I both know there's people that love Chick-fil-A and don't. But the point is, if they're number one, next is McDonald's and Panera at 2.5 million annual revenue average per store. And nothing between them and Chick-fil-A without working on Sundays, 4.4 million average per store revenue per year. It's unbelievable difference. And how did they win? Even as the CEO says, it's just chicken. It actually is. It's not laced in crack like people think. It's just chicken. And the deal is, he said, we win on learning and development. We got the same kids as McDonald's. They didn't come out of the womb saying, my pleasure. We trained them. And that's where training and development can change the culture. So I love that. It's true. That we're both in this business. We built that's what we built. We want to develop people because we can develop them into the greatest leaders and the highest performance when we develop them based on trust, which is in essence what you're doing with teams and everything. So, hey, let's get personal for a second. Your leadership starts at home. It starts personally. It starts with our own. So I know your wife, you married out of your league. She's amazing, as we know. And I did the same. So we're saying that we can show our wisdom of judgment in our marriages, at least, with me to Lisa and you to Antoinette. But what are habits? As I've known you and you're working accountability and building good habits, we often say you don't change an organization, you change a person. And when you change one, then they can change a team, and then they can change a company, and then pretty soon you can change a country. But you start by changing one, and it starts with us. But what are some habits you built? You know the importance of discipline and habits. You lived it in the NBA and other places. But what do you do today, whether it's physically, in your relationships with your family? You got some great kids there. What are some habits you think every day I do this?
Well, one, I try to be positive. Because I remember when I flunked out of my high school, I was embarrassed. And my dad was positive. My mother just said, baby, your light just hasn't clicked on yet. You'll be fine.
No, right? Walter. No, that's right. No, Walter, you positively failed.
Yeah. I flunked out and my dad would wake me up in the morning. Wake up, Moses, Moses for the Bible. Yeah. I remember when I flunked out, I was like, Moses. And he was just that kind of guy where he wouldn't browbeat you. He wouldn't criticize you. He was a straight shooter now, don't get me wrong. He didn't sugarcoat anything, but after he spoke his mind and said his piece, he would go back to being positive. So that's what I try and provide for my kids. And I believe in ownership. I want people to own their lives, and with my wife, she's my business partner and she owns her responsibility. She negotiates the contract. Right? She manages the website. She does the marketing. She deals with all of our vendors. My wife is my business partner. And I'm not saying that in name only. She legitimately is my business partner. And she has her responsibilities. I have mine. And I try and tell her every day she's doing a great job. And she laughs some days. I say, you're doing a great job. We just hired our daughter and I need to get her new word. Antoinette, you do a great job. I'm gonna get our daughter her word, her own word, but she does all of our video technology, our editing. She's been with us for a year, and I want everybody to own their stuff. Like if I'm on a keynote platform, that's me. That's mine. If I'm writing a book, that's me. That's mine. But I need you to own your smack. Because think about it, Dave. You and I in college rented apartments. The only thing we cared about was that security deposit. We never upgraded the property. We never painted it. We never thought about painting it. We never thought about upgrading the property. Why? Because we rented it. But the moment we bought a house, the whole mentality shifted. We're going to paint. We're going to cut the grass. Who parked on my yard? We get very territorial. Why? Because we own it. So when I deal with my clients, I ask them, when you build a culture, are you hiring renters or owners? Most companies, they hire renters. I'm just renting this job, right? And so when I give it back to you in 2 years or 3 years or 10 years, it's going to be exactly the same. It might even be a little worse. But if I let you own marketing, if I let you own social media, if I let you own training and development or curriculum, if I let you own it, it is yours. And you're going to take care of it much better than I will. And so to me, ownership is how you build culture. Ownership is how you build family. And as my kids mature and progress, we got 3 kids and 3 jobs. And I'm like, look, own your smack. It's not even my job to tell you what to do and try and control your every move. Look, you make your own decisions and understand there's some consequences to it. Good luck. If you want to help me, if you want me to help you rationalize some stuff and you want me to be a sounding board, cool. but I want you to own your smack. My wife does a great job owning her responsibilities. My daughter, Kendall, is owning her responsibility, and it's my job to own my responsibility. And I don't care how big a company is, we need to have owners and stop hiring people to rent, because that's the culture you build. And then you wonder why people keep leaving. Then you wonder why you have high turnover. Man, stop hiring renters and start recruiting owners that's going to own their responsibility.
How do you just give us one quick tip? How do you hire owners instead of renters?
Well, a lot of it's done in the hiring process, but when you onboard them, basically you give them responsibility and you set an expectation, but you give them the room to be themselves. In our teamwork methodology, we've coined a phrase, we call them work expressions, and people need to go to work and express themselves based on who they are naturally. And in sports, you can't place someone out of position and evaluate them. Tom Brady's a great quarterback, right? You can't play him at any other position in the NFL or he'll get embarrassed, right? But as a quarterback, he's the best of all time. I think the same thing is true inside of a company. As a coach, it is my job to evaluate my talent and then put them in a position of success. And I tell you a quick story. Our youngest daughter, Corey, was a track star in Minnesota and all the upper Midwest. My daughter did not lose a 100, 200, or 400 meter dash in any state in the Midwest. We moved to Florida. So I'm thinking, hey, my girl's a star in Minnesota. We're in Florida. I'm going to find a top track coach in Florida, and she's going to be a sprinter. We can get outside 1 year round. I found a top track coach. And for 2 weeks, I would go to practice. I would watch it, and he didn't say much. Then eventually he comes up to me and says, man, I like your daughter. She's strong, but we have to find her an event. I'm like, hello? She's a sprinter, 100, 200, 400. We just moved here from Minnesota 2 weeks ago. She has not lost a race in Nebraska, Minnesota, Iowa. What are you talking about? She's a sprinter. He goes, no, she can't run with my girls. We're going to find her an event. I'm upset. I'm frustrated. Did I make a mistake? Then he comes to me, Dave. He goes, okay, I get it. She's really a heptathlete, but she's too young. So I want to start her in triple jump. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? We've been here for 2 weeks. Long story short, I did my research, and he was a top coach in South Florida. I got out the way, and I let my coach that I chose do his job. My daughter's in the sand pit, and triple jump is a little bit of an awkward event. Man, she looked like she's about to tear her leg, her ACL, break her ankle. She's getting in the car frustrated. And I'm like, we got to trust the coach. Man, 4 months later, Dave, my daughter was an all-American triple jumper. 4 months later.
Wow. And
it taught me just, one, that man knows how to coach. 2, stay in your lane, Dad.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't know track. I knew sports, but I didn't know track. But a coach's job is to identify a talent and then position that talent so they can reach their potential, right? So the 5 work expressions that we teach are innovators, initiators, instigators, improvers, and implementers. And in business, we only celebrate innovators, which is crazy to me. That's like watching a basketball game and we only celebrate the point guards. No other position matters, the point guard. No. In business, you need all positions. You need innovators, right? You need initiators, like Mark Zuckerberg. He's an initiator. That was not his idea. He stole it, right? But he initiated it. He brought it to life. Instigators, okay? Steve Ballmer, owner of the LA Clippers, he's an instigator. If you watch his video for 30 seconds, you realize he's an instigator. And you need instigators, but sometimes instigators need to get coached, because sometimes instigators are misunderstood and sometimes they spiral out of control. But the bottom line is an instigator should act as like the immune system. Think about our immune system. If anything is not right, it attacks it. And that's the role of an instigator, right? Not just to instigate for the sake of it, but really seeing what's not right and attacking what's not right. But we know also the immune system can overreact. And sometimes the immune system can get out of whack. So an instigator on a team is like Dennis Rodman, Draymond Green. The Detroit Pistons had the bad boys. In hockey, we call them the bruiser, right? You got to have an instigator. And we teach this so well. We've had instigators that we've assessed call us and say, Walter, I got fired today. And dude, you're right. You warned me. I overdid it. Like, I want to win, but I just overdid it. I over instigated, right? So we got to teach instigators how to instigate. And that's what coaches do. So you got innovators, initiators, instigators, and then you have improvers. When I think about an improver, I think Oprah Winfrey. I think Nelson Mandela. I think Martin Luther King was an improver, right? He didn't invent anything, right? But he improved the world. He improved society. And right inside of every company, there are improvers. There's instigators, right? There's initiators. And there's implementers. When I think about implementers, that's Lee Iacocca, Jack Welch, just workers, just grinders. And so when I think about a team, you need to have a team that's balanced with innovators, initiators, instigators, improvers, and implementers. I'm a sports guy. You can't have 5 centers and think you're going to win. You can't have 5 point guards and think you're going to win. You got to have a team that's balanced with everyone playing their position and the coach directing traffic and getting all these amazing, talented pieces working together, like Richard Coffey, who could only rebound. But my God, my coach knew how to use that. I was all around. I could do everything. So he didn't need to duplicate that. Richard, you rebound. And if we get out-rebounded, that's your fault. Walter, you're versatile. So you give us what we're lacking. In any situation, you're so versatile, you become the wild card in Uno. Right? Willie Burton, you just score, dude. You just score. You score. You are a scorer. And that's how our great coach built the team. So if your team is not balanced, you don't have resources. And we do case studies with BlackBerry. What happened to BlackBerry? Everyone had a BlackBerry phone. Now you can't find one. Why? Something was flawed with their team. And so when we get inside of organizations and work with leaders, to me, it's not about leadership as much as it is about teamwork. Because your job is to build a team. And so we give our leaders a blueprint on how to build a high-performing team and become that ultimate coach who understands their personnel. They understand the innovator. They understand the initiator, the instigator, the implementer. And that's what great coaches do in football, right? They understand wide receivers want to get touches. They understand the running back wants to get touches. They understand the quarterback wants to throw the ball. And somehow they are the orchestra, they're the maestro of the orchestra and get all this talent and all these pieces working together in harmony.
I love it. Well, you can find out more, and we'll put that in the show notes. But my goodness, those 5, I love it. And we've talked about that. I still remember being in my boardroom at my last offices when you were just heading back to Florida and talking through those 5 and the assessments and everything you're building with creating high-performing teams. So,
well, let me say that, Dave. Let me say this: you inspired me. I mean, we don't have to go deep on that, but you inspired me. We had a conversation, and you challenged me. And you were absolutely right. And since that conversation, I had to work on me and really become more of just a performer, right? And really understand, I can really impact companies. Like, I can really help organizations hit their goals. And so since we had our Come to Jesus meeting, my wife and I got in the lab and started building content. Right? And started developing a teamwork methodology that can come and really help organizations. And I want to thank you for that. And, you were the perfect peer to really kind of jerk my chain a little bit and kind of say, hey, man, you're a great keynote speaker, but, we need more out of you. Let's become a thought leader and a true consultant that can help organizations transform. And we heard you loud and clear.
Well, I'm proud of what you've done, and maybe we're friends, so we can be direct with each other, and that's why I get paid to tell the truth. But I certainly want to tell it to friends, and you've done some just amazing work in life, and I'm so grateful that we're friends. So, hey, we're gonna go to a lightning round. To keep them real short here. Here we go. We got to wrap it up. I want to hear what you think about this. One thing that motivates you.
Getting better.
Yeah.
In sports, we have an off season. I love to get better.
Love it. What's a book or favorite resource these days?
Swim. Same.
You are.
Actually, the first book that comes to my mind is Traction. Traction is a great book. Gino Wickman really helped me because I didn't have a corporate background to really read Traction and get some intel on how to really be a business leader. Has really helped our company as well. So Traction.
Yep. The whole entrepreneurial operating system and
that's right.
all that. Rocket Fuel is the next book if you're into that kind of thing. It's fantastic. What about any quick one? I know you got many, but effectivity or productivity tip?
Work out first thing in the morning.
Work out first thing.
What's
your workout? Quick one.
Right now we're walking. Right now I'm walking. I do about 2.5 miles. I'm gonna get up to about 5 miles, and I come back and just do some push-ups. Because when you're in shape physically, your mind is sharp as well. And Coach Haskins had a saying: fatigue will make a coward out of us all. And
Great.
in sports, when you get tired, that's when you make mistakes. You will make turnovers. And so being in shape physically, releases all kind of endorphins that really helps our mental capacity. And so working out is a great stress release. I'm thinking, I'm being creative, I'm getting outside. So the first thing I do in the morning is go for a really hard, brisk walk. And I'm eventually progress into running.
Good.
But there's studies that show that just walking is the most powerful exercise.
When I lost 52 pounds in 5.5 months in 2011 and basically have kept, most of that off for a decade almost, one of the things I got back to, and, I was, as much as I wasn't a basketball player, I was all-state in football, and I loved sports and stuff. And I remember this doctor saying, David, you can't outrun a cheeseburger. And the deal was, you eat that 2,000 calorie deal. You can't go, you walk, just exercise that off. So you got to think about your input. You want to run a Ferrari or a junker, you got to put different fuel in the Ferrari. But the other thing was, he said, one of the best exercises is walking, actually. People think it's swimming's great, but walking, especially walking with weights. So this morning, I got up and walked on the treadmill with just a few pound weights, and I walk, and it just it's not high impact. I do elliptical and some other things, but it's something I still have in my rhythm of working out, this walking piece, and there's some incredible health benefits just to walking briskly, as you said. So I love that idea. I don't hear everybody saying that, and I had learned it from an executive coach years ago before I kind of decided that I needed to change my what do you call that? Just makeup, I guess I'll say. Right? So good. What's one thing left on the bucket list for Walter Bond?
For my wife and I both, I mean, we want to build a business that lives on beyond us. And the model is Dale Carnegie. I mean, this guy died in 1954, and he's still relevant today because he created trainings that are helping people transform. And so for me, being a kid who flunked out of a high school, the ultimate bucket list for me would be able to leave a business that lives on beyond us.
Great.
And, that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
And I also want to travel the world. And my wife and I love to travel. We love nice home. We love nice houses, so we snowbirded for years. We just put our 3 kids through college. And so, we like traveling and seeing amazing stuff. And we're doing a cruise this summer on the Ritz-Carlton. They got a new yacht. And so just doing cool stuff like that. But the biggest one is leaving a company that will live on beyond us.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, where can people, I got one last question for you before I get to that. Where can people find out about you? Where's the number one place to go?
WalterBond.com. Everything kind of builds from there. We have a bunch of websites and a bunch of different divisions of our company, but WalterBond.com is the best place. And I want to encourage everyone to watch our video, Shark Mindset. We've had over 3.5 million views on YouTube. The Cleveland Browns football team, one of the coaches saw it on YouTube, and he had me in front of their team like 10 days later. Shark mindset. And that's when we kind of break down what's in the book, Swim. But sharks run the ocean for a reason. And the shark mindset is a movement now that a lot of people enjoy.
Well, that's something you can be proud of with how Cleveland's playing this year compared to the last 17 years. So, I often, in fact, I got once introduced this way where it's like, yes, he's spoken to Congress twice. He must not be very good. So at least you can say you put that in front of Cleveland and look at the turnaround they've had. So I love that. Hey, we end this show with one simple question. It's the Trusted Leader Show. Who is a leader you trust and why? Wow.
Alive.
You pick.
Jesus Christ, man. Jesus Christ. I trust that dude.
All right.
And since I've been calling on that name, things have been working out, right? So that would be as a mortal, a guy named Peter Cancro, Jersey Mike Subs, my God, like through the coronavirus, I've seen him lead and they're up like 20%. They just opened 210 stores in a pandemic. So to me, his franchisees trust him. I mean, his franchisees will run through a wall for him. They're doing renovations, remodels, and he's paying for it. And we're talking over 2,000 locations. That's unheard of, right? And so, we talk about family environment in corporate America, but very few people really know how to build it and think mom and dad build trust. Mom and dad build trust over time. And I think that's what great leaders do. They build trust over time. And through your actions, it should become obvious that you love me. And Peter Cancro, in the context of corporate America, he let America know, because through a pandemic, he was on TV giving stuff away. Think about it. Through a pandemic, they gave $2 million to Feeding America. And they have a day of giving in April where every store in America, Jersey Mike's, they give the whole day proceeds to a charity of their choice. So not only is he generous, he's basically convinced his franchisees to become generous as well. And Jersey Mike's is coming on strong. And a lot of it has to do with their culture.
Love it.
And Peter Cancro's leadership.
It's culture. Culture wins. Yes. Well, everybody, we've heard a lot today, and a few things that come to mind for me. You must become a servant of your team. You can't be a great leader and be selfish at the same time. They just don't go together. Are you going to coach, or are you going to be a fruit inspector? You got to let them own it. If your employees, you got to let your employees know they can reach their potential here. There's a whole lot more. Unless, I love this, and this is so true, unless you get down to the middle managers, you have not changed the culture. All this and more. I hope you enjoyed the show. It's been the Trusted Leader Show. What a gift it's been to have you on, Walter Bond. Until next time, we'll look forward to seeing you all. Stay trusted.